Part 2 is now finished. That was quick, it was about 5 days, but I think it's because we've done a lot of the core work in the first part and getting resources together. I can't say that's going to be the same for the next bits, but ideally we're dealing with a lot more footage now, so because of that things should be moving faster, but writing's still going to be a problem for me. So because it's done, I thought I might do a little look through. I might talk about every decision. Right, so first little bit here. So I reused something from the last video. Was it the last video? Oh, that was a bit of corruption there.
And they were going to try and join.
Yeah, I thought, because I wanted a title card. Basically, I wanted a title card for everything, so I thought I'd use something I already made. Because I think this fits the motif of not wanting quite to show the movie yet, because it hasn't been made, and it being correct in the style.
They were lucky that Studio News direct.
This shot here was actually quite difficult. This is more small time. Trying to, because this person did not have a lot of images. I had to sort of create one. It's a little bit stock. I created
Mr.
the type.
Takayama.
There wasn't much I could do with it. I didn't want to create a whole image for him because he's only mentioned in passing so smallly. I thought it would be a waste of time, so I created this sort of creation point here, though it's a little bit dull.
Used to work at Topcraft and was able to give them both a foot in the door. I still remember when I first met.
And then there's this sequence here where we go through. I basically redo the sequence from Nautica, but the sort of cartoon version of it. Again, here this is a point. This area here is something that I'd like to have another piece of footage for, but I'm gonna have to wait a little bit. I think in one of the documentaries there's a clip of Miyazaki talking about this. I might add in as well. Because again, I feel like the beginning of this video, or the beginning of this part of the video, starts a little bit slow in visual.
But Miyazaki thought otherwise. When Anno said, "Give me Nautica," Miyazaki ran away. Takahata was.
There's a fun little drawing here. I'm thinking about consistency in the future. I've got to be careful about how I keep drawing Anno, because I have lots of different ways I've drawn him so far, which I don't think is terrible, but I'm going to try and be a bit more consistent with my drawings of Anno as we go forward.
Been watching it all. From here, Anno leapt onto Macross. These were the end of his party days as he migrated from cut to cut.
Now, the only concern I really have about this cut is that we are going from some pretty low-res images I've upscaled straight into very sharp images of my animation. I don't know if there's really much way I can merge these two worlds very well though. I mean, in full screen these things are quite blurry, but there's not really much I can do about it, I'm afraid. They're very old school images. I could attempt to make my drawings match it a bit more. That's really the best I could do.
Leapt onto Macross. These were the end of his party days as he migrated from cut to cut.
It might be possible. It might be possible. It's just, I think I've already exported it with a background. I think it's fine that's a little sharper. I think that's just part of the style of it. It's pretty rough around the edges. I may add the texture on top of the. I guess the best I could do is adding a texture, sort of textured thing over the whole thing, just over the whole of the sequence, like a texture, like this paper texture on top of the sequence to try and make it just feel a little bit more of it in its own
These
world.
were the end of his party days as he migrated from cut to cut.
Now these are the shots. Now this was a difficult part because it was me trying to figure out all the all the cuts he did during this period. So we got Pop Chase. I think vaguely it's not really confirmed, but I think it's this shot here in the bar, the explosions. Then we have Birth, where he was in between it, and probably did a couple of cuts. I think these are pretty concerned. The Mega Zone one. Now this is a slightly updated version by look because I had to change this. I think the version I put out for people had a different cut on it, which was a very cool cut. It was very cool, plain cut, but it was not Anno. So I unfortunately had to change it to a different cut in the episode, which it was the same episode. He was in this episode, but we believe this is the cut that he did.
Step 1, make some cool storyboards.
Yeah, there's some sequences like this where I don't know if they're a bit too long, like this quote and other bits, going through these things. I've checked with some people, they seem to think it's alright. I think the information is at least valid enough. Alright, let's go through a little piece of...
were graduating and Daikon's indie film productions wrapped up. it started to look as though the studio was about to fade away. Yet, from the
Here's an
ashes
interesting choice.
came
So
the
the
new
music
studio,
here.
Gainax. Yamaga and
So I wrote out the switch to Daikon to Gainax. It was one of the first pieces of animation I did for the project, and it was one where I was a bit concerned about if I could do it. Like it was a bit of I was like, how could I do that? And I think I made it work quite well. And the music choice here was Shin Megami Tensei 4 Black Market. Very good choice, I think, musically. I think it really fits the scene. I tried a couple of different ones here, and they just couldn't. They were a little too lively for the sort of
Toshio
tone.
Okada felt that it would be a waste just to disband the talent. They began to think about, so
let's
they
go to the
needed
next
to make a
big
5-minute pilot first. If the project was deemed salesworthy, they could do it. Anno travelled overseas for the first time for the purpose of conducting research for the film.
8, 7.
Now, something I did add to this sequence here, because I created some of these things separately. We had the rocket, and I think it's a NASA image, and I wanted to edit them to make them more sort of creatively my own. So I kind of did this color effect on it, which I think it was an accident at first, but I quite liked it, so I kept it. I thought it created a nice sort of contrast with the background. But then I realized, oh, okay, when I drew
the film.
When I drew Anno here, he doesn't really match, so I added sort of like an orange glow onto him to make it feel like it's sort of it's resonating off him, so it kind of feels like he's part more of the scene.
8, 7, 6, 5.
And here was another bit here, like I was trying to get the right angle on the glasses here, because I wanted it to sort of match between the cuts, and this part was a little bit all over the place. I think I've adjusted it since a little bit more. So it was like, the reflections in the glasses, you can see the rocket. I think there was a little bit too much niggle around there, and I think I cleaned that up, so in the final version it'll be a bit closer. But yeah, I was just wanting it to I wanted it to sort of feel a certain way. I think the final version gets that. I mean, I think it works for what it is, for the reflection. It's just opening the scene. It's a very quiet way of doing it, and that's why I sort of like, instead of just saying like, oh, he saw the rocket and it was cool, I wanted to really just show it and then cut it into the sort of, again, animated title card, and then show a bit of the pilot.
The pilot was a success. Okada and Yamaga actually moved to the city to become...
So yeah, those are some of the bigger cuts. I'm wondering if there's anything else here. I think after this it's mainly clip selection and talking about the piece. Yeah, pretty much.
Drawing it cartoonish, he wanted a grounded sense in the planes, even going as far to get training with the GDF.
JDF, Japanese Defense Force. I don't know if I could fix that. GDF, whatever.
See it firsthand. Yes, that was my best time as an animator. Even at the time, it was a job I was quite satisfied with.
Now, that's, I'll cut it together. Going forward, yeah, Gunbuster, I have almost a 10-minute script version of it. I guess, I don't know if it's probably a bit optimistic. It's, 12, I want to say it's like 1,300-ish words, maybe more. There's little bits and pieces I need to add on the Imperialist side of it. And it's been difficult to find direct quotes as much, because the interviews where they talk directly about Gunbuster have kept in the Japanese sphere. So that is a little bit more difficult. I have found a couple more pieces. There's going to be at least 2 little animatic sequences in it, I know, like little storyboarded Anno moments. I don't know if we need a huge amount on it, really. It would be nice to have those extra sources, but I don't think they're going to come out until they have the Discotheque release, which, from what I've been told, probably isn't going to come out until like the end of the year or the other side of the year. So it's unlikely I'm going to get that information on the English side. I don't know if it's going to even be that interesting, because I have enough on it, but I just wanted a little bit more in terms of like Anno's perspective. I have a couple quotes on little bits and pieces, but that's a different thing. So yeah, I think we made good time on it. Now, I think it's probably best I keep writing for the foreseeable part. It's going to be difficult for me, but it's probably good to have Gunbuster and Nadia, Uru and Blue, at least those 3 done before I start making more. I would say maybe Ava, but Ava's going to be such a task. It might be balloon in size that it might be good just to focus on those three as the next section. You know, to I feel like that might be more, because that's probably another 25 minutes or something. Because then Ava could be, God knows how long that could be. In terms of, that could be twice the length. Ava and End of Ava could be its whole giant thing. Just because they're probably going to be the most talked about, the most interviewed, the most everything as a sequence. So there is that, yeah. Alright, let's keep it nice and brief. So this week we have effectively written up 2 scripts, more or less. They're still a little rough in some places, and you get them checked, but the Gunbuster script and the Nadia script have came together quite alright. I will still need to double check some stuff on the Nadia script, and I might have to add some bits, and I have to order the quotes, like sources. And we've done a bit of research too to kind of get there. Ehoba has been a very useful source. His Twitter account, it's a translating account, has a bunch of stuff on Nadia and just generally Anno's products that you won't find anywhere else. And I found other bits and pieces. Sometimes I search Twitter sphere to look for, like, if anyone's mentioning something research-wise with sources that I can take on, just because it's you know, there's a huge gap of people. I did find something else about Okada, who sort of made a weird claim about well, there's a good thing about the article. The article does dictate. Okada says, yes, they gave us 39 scripts, which is a common thing about Nadia, is people say that it was extended halfway through. Complete bollocks. They were given 39 scripts and likely an hour time, like a year time slot from the beginning, because it starts in March and it basically ends around, I think it was March, April, and it ends that. So they've had that timeline to make those 39 episodes of about a year, and 7:30 slot for that year. So that, at least there, that makes sense. The other part is some sort of deal with Korea and Japan about learning how to make animation, allegedly. I'm mentioning that, but it might be bollocks. It's supposed to, like, in his reasoning, I think the idea is that's why Korea got involved in the island arc or something. But yeah, I don't know about that one. But yes, there was a couple of things I found. I think there's some stuff I haven't been able to say because I feel I'm trying to keep it on point. We talk about the island arc a lot, probably more than anything else, because of the controversy, the history of it, and I'm trying to, like, dissect that. And it's kind of the point at which Anno becomes depressed. So to me, those 2 points are very important. I guess from here it is now finishing the Uru and Blue section of the script, which probably won't be very long. Expanding maybe the movie section about the Nadia movie. It's about, I think it's 3,700 words right now. So add the Uru and Blue, we might get back to 4,000-ish words again. And then from there it's back to it's probably back to making it. Probably going to go back to, like, finding all the stuff I need. Probably a lot less this time, just because, again, clip selection and me on screen is probably going to save me a lot of time. So there's going to be less, like, resource gathering, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, if I finish the Uru and Blue part next week, I could probably start also research or resource gathering next week as well for all those little sections. And I think I'll keep it brief for this one because I don't know if there's much more for me to say. At least the scripts are progressing. I mean, I find it quite difficult, but at least they are progressing. Two. It's not bad to get 2 of those scripts done in a week, ish. I mean, I might have started the Gunbuster one earlier, but to finish them at least. I mean, so this week I got ill. I wasn't able to do everything I wanted to, mainly around recording and probably doing, like, some live action recording and voiceover. I pushed them back probably till next week. But the script, as far as I can see, is done. We're 4,000-ish words. That's another 3 parts, kind of, 3 parts. I reorganized all the sourcing, so I think we're at 67. So this is a rough we did on Sunday. This is for the opening. I decided to give it a go, like, blanking it out a bit. I've also since, with the help of my actual nephew, who's about the age, done an actual, like, reference. I recorded a sort of going from behind, spin around kind of thing, to help me reference specifically the glasses, because I was using a telecom cut, as my basis for what we were doing here. But it's a bit difficult because that cut has it's very dark, it has a cape on, it's a different kind of character, so I couldn't perfectly do what I wanted there. So I thought it'd be good to get a real world example of how things are going to turn and bend. It might help me with like the hair and the nose in relation to the glasses. But yeah, it's that's going. Maybe today I'll do a bit more on it. Now I have the right materials, let's say. So we have a Shinji Higu. Alright, I wrote it long. It was Higuchi. I think I removed the I. But yeah, I did some animations for 3 characters for the video. There was 3 more characters I had to introduce, and there's a lot of Anno. So here we have Higuchi in animated form. There is a sort of more white frame in there, which I was kind of going for a little more take on me, but I don't know if it works 100%, but you know, it's probably okay. It's good enough for now. So Higuchi's going to come back later, so I thought it was important to have him being a pretty articulate drawing. I'm not sure if I'm quoting him, but if we do, I'll probably have to add in the eyelashes. The blinks. We have then Shiro Sagiso. Here, I don't know if there's actually any quotes I could use for him in terms of like interviews, but he will probably be brought up just for the sake of him doing so much music in the coming films. Sachikawa here, who he is the editor of Nadia, who goes on to be one of the key writers on Ava. Did a lot of scripts for it, and I think he kept working as well here and there doing different bits. So because he became kind of important to the Nadia context and to Ava when it comes to editing and their influence on editing, and also moving to a more predominant space afterwards, I thought it'd be important to have a little image of him. Don't know if we have any. We might have one quote coming up later, but we'll see. We also have, like I said, several Arnos here. It's a bit more of a rough one. I'm going to have to make it shake, so there's going to be an effect that has to be added to it. I think it's going to work. This is the kind of more pain sequence. So, if you see here, originally I was going to do the background in dark, but I think in the end it felt more... I don't know, it felt right to me more that if he'd be darkened in this situation. I tried both, and I think this works better. The feeling there. I might get him to shake as well, and then it will move into the sort of screaming, breaking lockers. We have, again, I might do some adjustments to this one as well, because I might darken him in the same way. This is the more pensive, depressed Anno before we move into... for the next videos, I'm going to have to create the new sort of look for him, which is the more just dishevelled, depressed Anno. Sort of scraggly beard, slightly in between hairs, between having a really long hair but also short hair, so this sort of more in between unfurl. It's just like his hair being very messy, not 100% long, but just unkept, and beard, and otaku, probably just like a shirt, something kind of looking a little rough around the edge. We have broken Anno here, which I might have to do some adjustment to this image still. But this is a sort of effect that I did manually, which apparently I didn't have to. Apparently you can do effect like this in After Effects, but I think it would have probably looked a bit more stock. But I guess I could have probably done an in-between, sort of done the effect, then added my own, whatever can be, right? But yeah, I like how this effect worked. I might move some little bits and pieces, but it's kind of establishing the first sort of break in Anno psyche-wise, the Nadia break, which is the then position of introspection he gets towards Ava, and this is that journey, that like dark period journey. So I have these other ideas for when we get to the Ava, but I didn't necessarily. They're a little bit more complicated, and I think they lead more into a sequence later. So instead of using them yet, I thought I would keep them for the Ava sequence. Here we have Anno discovering Yamaga's script for episode 2 of Gunbuster. Here I was referencing the movie for Mask of Phantasm, because I was thinking about how I'd even shoot something like this, and I specifically in my mind remembered, there's a scene there where Bruce Wayne, he finds the photo of Joker before he was Joker, that he was a mobster in that context, and he draws the little smile on it. and that kind of like finding something on a desk, looking at it, and having like a revelation. I was like, that's that's probably some pretty good shots there that I can use to help me sort of reference how I'd even do it, because we go to him looking, and then there's a sort of crying shot too, which I've got somewhere else. So here we have Angry Anno, which is his response to... But yeah, this is his response to... I believe it was the response to him not getting his way on Gunbuster and having his struggles, and he sort of acts out emotionally quite commonly, which seems to be a constant in you hear in early Anno career. I don't know if he's gotten better with age, but it'll be a fun sequence to record. But I have to wait to the right situation. So here we have Sad Anno. And I think I still need to put an overlay on it here, but Sad Anno will have a sort of slight cry there. That is his response to reading the Gunbuster script. And I think that worked out pretty right. I kind of used the basis of one of the other close-ups, but I've kind of adjusted it. Cat wants to come in. Yeah, this is one of the more silly, funny shots, especially what's after it. But in this sequence especially, there are a lot of like Anno related sort of little bits. Not full animations, but just little, I guess you could say like cutscenes. We have Anno's sort of sad tear, we have his sort of angry kicking of the lockers, and his just general emotional breakdown. We have the broken Anno moment, which is more small than the other two. But the key is, the script is together, as far as I can tell, close enough. And, yeah, the script is together. I have all the resources. I collected all the resources I could. I've done all the drawings. Everything's ready to edit it. I just need to record, and hopefully by the next day or two I'll be in a better state to do that. Because I don't really want to record when my voice is a little bit ill sounding. I feel it will mismatch with the rest of it, and it will be harder to do bits and pieces, because I'm kind of running out of things to do in between that point. But yeah, everything should be more or less together. I guess maybe musical choices is something I have to think about. The script is probably alright. You know, it's a little questionable area for me, but I think it comes together enough. I'll have to see, just by the editing process, we'll see if there's how well it comes together, because there's a lot of cuts in it which are very specifically editing. I've wrote them from an editor view, where like I don't know if it works in writing, because it specifically relies on the cut to get the point across. So from here we've kind of set up disillusion with Anno, and the next section it's all going to be about his sort of self-hatred, otaku sort of era, and you'll get that impression of him, you know, on that sort of like live in reality, and he's kind of a nod to like his concept of live, this idea of like experience something. You'll keep seeing that. Right, so let's go. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to look through it, and I'll just give some commentary about making stuff and things. We'll begin here. So I tried to make a title card for each little section, and this one's okay. I kind of wasn't 100% happy with it, so I did a lot of adjustments on the sizing. And this one, you see, it comes in, so the Gunbuster logo comes in.
If Gainax could come up with an anime that would sell at least 10,000 copies, then Bandai would gladly fund it.
Yeah. So that was kind of the beginning there, and then we get into this. I made a new projector layout. You can't quite see it very well there, but a friend of mine, Jaden, he helped me sort of do, I wanted to add like a sort of flickering size, and it's not 100% like his had rendered, he did things a little differently with mine. I sort of adjusted my current one. We're on camera now, beard, so I guess as the videos go on, I'm probably going to try and like not shave, and just I'll become more disheveled as the video goes on, probably an emotional response. And we've got 1, 2 reaction there,
and back to the studio. He needed to direct it.
Yeah, the actual cry, I think it's a nice little subtle bit there. And then we get back into the quotes, and as you see, here's Jaden reading his line very courteously. He came back to return his role. I think Yamaga it's now done, but we might have one more quote from him later.
Okay, this is my kind of work. But don't hope for a good screenplay. I'm going to make a stupid robot girl anime.
And I said, like, okay.
Yeah. So I think he did a good job there. We've got 3 special guests in this video. Next time we might have a couple as well. I think I'm going to ask Joe to do a couple lines of like extra background stuff, as well as I could find him the role of the Bandai producer. If I could find that quote about the Bandai producer who rejected Ava, that would be interesting. I just don't remember where it's from. There's so many interviews. I'm going to have to like a scour through. This part is also full screen, I thought would do, because I wanted to match the prior clip, just because it's really specific about what it's talking about. This is I didn't want to get too much into the folklore stuff. I was kind of considering cutting this bit. I'm not sure if I made the right decision or not, but I think I was just trying to say, like, this is where Anno was coming from. He was interested in it because of this. This is what attracted him. I didn't want to go into like what the actual story was. I thought that might be a bit too much of a tangent, so I've kind of just introduced it and be like, yeah, he was introduced it. What interested him is more this angle of the story. And then I've thrown a couple clips from the movie here, prior movie, because this was originally going to be live action footage, but I forgot to add it in my live action document script, so I had to do like a re-recording for this little bit.
Relegated to side project status. I was devastated
For that whole section. Oh yeah, we've got, I don't know if I've talked about this, it's like kind of new Anno. I don't think he's going to be used much more now. Actually, he might have, after Nadia, I think he's going, because we're going to get out like sort of like otaku, disheveled Anno will be the next image I'll be using, which will continue through the Ava period, and then from there there'll be one more Anno, which is like older, more refined, married Anno. So I think that's the 4 that you're going to see in this video. So I really used 4 images of Anno. I guess I will have. You know, there are a couple frames each. This one, I don't think this one's as impressive as the last one. I actually prefer the last one. I did adjust this one a bit. I added in hair because I wanted to match that. Because originally the drawing had the beard and the cut, which is more like mid-90s Anno. And this might have been more work than it's worth, because I don't know if the hair works 100%. To me, I've never quite got it. It does, something about it doesn't feel 100%, but I did what I could. I think it's okay. So probably worthwhile. I'm not using it too much because I like the prior drawing much more. I'll see if I can make a really good like otaku depressed Anno picture for the next part of the video. Now I came back to doing the drawing out type things for specific stuff here. I usually do it when I feel like a quote gets a bit long, and this image, I like I said, I'm not in love with this image. I think it's very simple, and I don't know, when a quote goes longer than 20-30 seconds, I feel like I'm more likely to try and mix up the imagery a bit. Oh yeah, here's something I've been trying here as well: justified text.
Failed. The people who watched anime don't want that kind of work. It was a failure in terms of advertising strategy, even for some people who don't watch anime.
So yeah, the thing with this Anno too is that he doesn't have a lot of space for text. So I was trying some justified. I think it kind of helps like sort of block the text out a bit more uniformed. I'm not, again, it's a difficult one, justified, because I think sometimes it can look pretty bad. But I'm giving it a go for a couple of the quotes just because I want to unify it a bit more. I think it kind of works sometimes. I've been doing something similar to it where I was slightly adjusting the text to make it feel more that way. But yeah, this is drawn out text. I do it sometimes. There's 2 quotes I did for here because they were long and I wanted to like end them with like transitions into cuts.
Girls go into space.
Like that. You know, I try and play around the imagery a bit so like the text is where it should be. And here was a problem. Right here, this clip. Lol. I think it's a perfect clip for the half-naked girls going to space. Very Gynex. But I had to cut it because bastard, like it's not an image, it's not a video image issue. It's an issue with the audio rights. They were very finicky. Like 10 seconds of audio got claimed, even though it might not have been 10, because they also claimed silence, which not great. So I just cut the clip down a little bit, so it's a little shorter than it was, which I think's okay. It seems to transition pretty alright. It did feel a little bit better to me to have the elongated clip that just like ended with the title screen into the black. Felt a little bit more natural, but I didn't want to mess around with copyright, which could take a month for the final video. So I thought, fuck it, get rid of it. I want every section of this video to be pretty clean, as clean as possible, because last time there were too many copyright claims to deal with. I think by the end we were at 7, and I couldn't get rid of all of them. I think there's still 2 on it where I just can't be fucked with them, because it would involve 2 strikes to get rid of both of them at maximum, 1 strike minimum, 1 month without that video. So yeah, I guess we can see it here now. So you can see the jitter
at the time we're looking for. So they kind of did that. With
We also have a quote here.
Gunbuster, I tried to show something different that could be created by doing robot animation. Also, negative opinions about parodies and...
This is me again mixing. Sometimes you'll see me do this, right? I'm using the quote as a visual at the bottom because we've just had the quote before. We've just seen the imagery. So I try and mix it up by like, I'm using examples by showing clips with the text to try and mix up sort of the language of the video, so it's just not continuously one little tiny piece of animation. Common thing I usually do.
Spread.
But then I'll end it with this just to like clarify, this is who's talking, and it was a quote. To really be like, yes, it was Anno who said that, because I think I don't actually mention it in the first 2 parts, because I think you can kind of get the gist. But it's either one of them, and then you'll see at the end, like, yes, it's Anno talking.
So I wanted to try and show that even parodies can become a methodology. Never is to show quite as much a parody.
This was a little bit more difficult because I messed up here. I should have, see all these clips down here. What I should have done is I should have turned them all into nested clips. So I only had to do the masking once, or I could have done the masking After Effects maybe, where it would have probably been easier to mask with the tools in After Effects, where like the ones in Premiere are a little bit scuffed. But yeah, I created this sort of dividing line, kind of like just Improv 2, I made like a line like that, and because I wanted something that's a little bit more dynamic than just a straight line. But yeah, having them both like feel this way. And finding the clips wasn't the easiest because I was using the movie and I was skimming through the movie, and there's some parts of the movie I couldn't find because there were some scenes I was thinking about, like both of them getting bullied and crying, or like begging the coach to like let them go. Those kind of scenes, I couldn't find them when I was looking through, so I just tried to use like some of the more basic stuff. So, you know, you've got the training using literal heavy wheels for the power play. Then we got the 2 sort of like Madam Butterfly-esque characters, but literally Madam Butterfly on the
large
left.
chunks of...
And the sort of intro where they both get a little bit like, well, in the TV show, like they're sort of like a visually embarrassed or like red-cheeked main character in Aim for the Ace. I forget her name now. But yeah, she's kind of visually embarrassed around it, and they do that in Gunbuster. So I think Arno's references, at least, or the references the team are making, are closer to the television show than the movie. But going through the whole television show is difficult for clip selection because it's 25 episodes for the first series.
Into it, and not just...
But now I'm trying to show, like, yeah, you can kind of see the visual language of the film, or the Saki sort of sunset stuff is there.
Just the beats, but the...
And then, yeah, we got this clip here. Now this is an interesting one because I removed a lot of the flashing because my friend was saying about it. He said that there's too much flashing in those clips, so I either need to put a warning in it, remove, or just, you know, I'm probably going to still put a warning, but I've removed most of the flashing because the flashing in the clip is very annoying. So like I kept a couple flashes here. I mean, on the way out. And then there's not much I could do about this sequence, so I'll probably still put like maybe a minor warning in the time codes.
However, the rest...
But yeah, you know, before the Pokemon incident, you were bound to find flashing imagery in some of this stuff. So it's lucky that because it was a postcard memory here, it was actually quite easy to remove the flashing because it was just a still, so it didn't affect the imagery at all to remove it.
Colic adulthood. Noriko would return to Japan a stranger out of time after the war.
Let's see what else we got here. So we go back to the image of the sunset there, the sunset.
The influence of...
Should I check the... Yeah. And then another quote. Now this is an interesting one. This is another situation where this is a quote from the first episode. Maybe it would have been more fitting to get a quote later in the show, but I'd have to find one, and like, the series is quite long to find the exact quote. But I thought this quote was a good parable, at least, because it isn't necessarily one of his like bold speeches. It's more speech about like, yes, it is, you know, it's okay to retreat when the other option is foolish. It's not worth fighting, I think is his argument, is know when to run, and that's his quote there. And then in comparison, we have a fight where on the other side you've got, you know, Noriko basically saying, no, we need to fight at all costs because everyone's depending on us and we need to fight right now. and those are two different perspectives, but the kind of bold speech is very of that era. God damn, I'm like, I have to export it again. I've already had to export it twice because of things like that. Maybe I'll just leave that in because it's just like one frame. Unfortunate. Yeah, so a little drawing there. I get Kohei Tanaka isn't coming back. I didn't think he'd be worth drawing a whole image for, so I just sort of created a little default here. We've got a little picture of him with the gun buster in the background. We've got his name, and we've got a couple images of him and he's mainly probably known as like the One Piece composer nowadays, but he did a bit on Dragon Ball. And then yeah, nice little Blade Runner clip. And then this part is not the best transition. I was trying to show some of the clips of like the audio with very horny horns and
While
synth.
marrying it with overblown orchestral next to a 80s pop sheen.
Here as well, I was going to do an AMV, but I decided one clip would be better. I was pretty tired at the time. I just didn't want to like scour through footage. I didn't know if it was being necessary to have an AMV. It might be nice. It's something I could come back to, but I think the clip works for what it needs to. I think the clip is okay for now. I'm gonna have a big AMV at the beginning, so I don't know. I'm probably okay with it as it is for now. But yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll do something else somewhere else, I'm sure. But yeah, because the main point of this clip here is to transition screaming into screaming conversation. Yeah, and they have a little conversation there. And I took the subs from the website because I didn't want to caption it, but they're a little bit small. I hope they're not too small for people watching, but I guess it's not a big deal if they are. They do seem a little small. But I guess if you make it bigger like that, it's just probably readable. I did try and zoom it as much as I could. But yeah, they have a conversation about like the sort of screaming in the booth, and I thought it was a nice little addendum to like the more comical stuff we're about to get into here, about how people thought the show was a parody. Here I did way too much work at removing lip flaps, and I like clipped a couple scenes together because I wanted the motion, so I wanted like the reactions and the emotions, which are like they're a lot more spaced out in the final clip. So I wanted all those little bits of and there's also the yeah, I want that all together without it being too distracting. And I think we're out of the way where we have to use Okada stuff now, which is probably good. And yeah, I did this bit. I quite like sort of like,
you see, you get the feeling.
because it's like it's condensed in the sort of circle. I think that's a nice
It's great
feeling.
that I'm watching animation.
Like it all comes together like that. I think that's a nice little bit of that. I try and avoid doing too much of those because it does take a lot of extra time and there's so many quotes. But you know, when it's an important quote, I think it's worth it.
Merits from its contrasting.
We've got another clip here. This video might be a little clip heavy because I like the sort of match cut I did here. I had to make this 4:3 match the more like widescreen footage. So they sort of mirrored. They literally mirror. And then yeah, I did a little Bushido there. I wrote that out because it was a good title. Then a lot of this is me talking, and then I've got a couple cutaways here. You know, we've got the Russo-Japanese War. Again, I didn't go into the detail about the Russo-Japanese War because it's more just like the case that there was a war that Russia lost, basically. That's probably, I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, that's what happened. And then that's when Sam came in gracefully to do his second Takeda line. If there's any more Takeda lines, it's about tax evasion, but I think we're good for a long time. But yeah, he's just sort of giving that perspective of them just kind of being like annoyed at being called like political when they have no interest in it, but there's arguments to be made that, like, you know, just because you don't necessarily aren't actively trying to be that doesn't mean that the work can't be interpreted that way because of their just sort of indifference to it. And a lot of the imagery, you know, they obviously use a lot of imperialist imagery.
The whole point of our film was simply to make you laugh.
That's the. And I wanted to use these shots from Comic Cat because I want them to really specify, like, yeah, the audience of the fans of the 70s were quite different. Also, Comic Cat, majority women fan we're talking about there. So I'm using a couple images from that era.
Student movement.
These people sort of who like made the Comic Cat, yeah, they were all part of that sort of union era.
Where Anno's generation were 80.
I'm not in love with this little bit here, but this was just like sort of a cut from
Nor Anno with that kind of strong director like a Miyazaki.
You know, I used this older. Probably should have used the other Miyazaki, to be honest, because this is sort of like a more. This is me like me youthing up an older Miyazaki picture. So like removing his beard, and I don't think it quite works. He looks better with the beard. I don't know if I did the greatest job on his like jawline, but I kind of wanted it to be, I guess, in error. Another quote there from Ricardo.
Anime project, everyone has to be the
Well, it was like an unofficial quote from him, but I wasn't on camera. Unfortunately, because this could have been me on camera, but this is a loose quote from him.
director, well, allegedly. The creation of Gunbuster's story went through a 4-man rotation. A lot of it was...
Yeah, so that's some imagery there from an old magazine. Oh, God. But yeah, I thought that was a good imagery for it, and I sort of just affected it. Uses some autofills in After Effects, which is an effect... it's an effect that sort of like, yeah, it autofills an image that it's a little bit difficult to use. And there are presets... Oh, God. There are presets, but I'm not really that privy to using them. I should probably try and use them because they're quite good. But yeah, I like to use it simply, just like that, to sort of reveal the images as such.
It's reflective in its tone, but that almost didn't happen. Depending on the sales, we may have never passed episode 4, which was a pretty fine finale. That didn't mean Anno had an easy ride. Directing was a
Yeah, there we go. We're
new
bringing Anno
experience
again.
to him, and he didn't always take it well.
When background art director rejected refinement in Gunbuster episodes 5 and 6, Anno started trembling.
Yeah, again, Jane was nice enough to show me this sort of boiling lines effect. I learnt a way of using expression with turbulent displace to sort of create the more like boiling line, sort of usually like the wiggle you get in animation, but I wanted to use it specifically for this shake.
God damn it!
I also adjusted those final little sound effects. I want the timing to be right on them. Yeah, and here's another little one, so we use some
The
Ultraman
finale,
clips
Anno
here.
wanted the enjoyment of a vintage Japanese film. It was watching Ultraman
And slowly having it transition to black and white.
monochrome television that inspired it. I realized special effects look better in black and white. When you have color, you have...
Again, here's a good example of me thinking like, yeah, it's best to just show it and have like the clips there, because this is like a really... These clips are like... They get the point across pretty well. Then I think we've got one final clip in there. I had to avoid the naked. Unfortunately, as awesome a shot it is, because of YouTube, I had to avoid the ripping off of the clothes shot and re-editing it so her bra's on or something stupid like that. Repainting it in sounded like far too much work.
Gunbuster was fixed, and it was pretty much a budget of about a third of what they had prior, even though they made exactly the same amount of animation. So they had to once again take the brunt of those costs on themselves.
I like this a little bit here. So this is me using some effects. I want to create something that was like a little old school. So like the wiping colors, sort of like you would see on an old computer. So wiping colors, things loading
Thus
in one
the
piece at a
studio's
time.
priorities moved to
And also having the font using classic Chicago, classic Mac font there. Putting it on the screen there. It works better with the first name than it does the second, but I think that's nice. And then you got the effect, like the CRT effect on top of it. I think it all comes together with like a really charming little display. We're probably going to use it once more with the Nadia, because there's the Nadia game.
different fields. Video games, where they believed their own strong aesthetic talent could take advantage of the market. Gunbuster was the first of their anime to be featured in one of these Arrow games. The studio
Yeah, and I happen to find the most safe for work version of the arrows to sort of kind of get my point across. The stripping games.
came to specialize in this gradually, as the numbers of staff members working solely on PC games doubled. But then
Yeah, and then finally, me just sort of having the outro there, intro to Nadia. There we go. For 10 minutes, it took a while, but I guess I did get it all together by the end of the week. Now, I'm hoping with Nadia that's going to be the same.